It is hot in here, which is why I am not in my room instead of in a different room. So yeah, script there, hard to look at, straight in the camera, usual affair. Anyways, I decided to do a new series where I review every film I've watched the previous week. Yeah, just so I'm putting out something distinct that hopefully will attract people to watch my content, but also to give my opinions on a vast variety of films in a single video. Anyways, I'm a massive fan of film and filmmaking. Hopefully this will be a bit easier. I'm a massive fan of film and filmmaking. In fact, the courses I've been studying for the past few years are film related. And one of the things that we were very much told to do was to watch more films. Yeah. And the more you watch, the more you can give feedback and be able to get an idea on how you can create stories of your own. That's what I've been achieving so far for the past few years, including last week. I've watched 4 films so far last week. All of them not great, but they were enjoyable enough for me to not rip into it as terrible. I've been wanting to branch out a bit more than just my usual selections, like standard action films, Marvel, DC, and all that, and just animated films. I wanted to try new genres or films that I wouldn't have watched when I was younger or even a few years ago. But probably will now. I'm just waffling, so let's get into these films. I watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall first on Monday. And it's a standard rom-com that's inoffensive and not anything groundbreaking. I thought the 4 main leads were good in what they were doing. I liked Jason Segel and Mila Kunis's chemistry throughout. Their characters definitely had a good connection. At least that's how I viewed it. Kristen Bell was good. I enjoyed Russell Brand's character. I thought he had a good presence throughout. The supporting cast is a lot of fun. I enjoyed Jack LeBray and Maria Fayer's character the most, maybe because they were trying to become intimate together and prove that this newly appointed marriage wasn't for nothing. Jonah Hill was a fanboy. Paul Rudd was high off his mind, and Bill Hader is great as always. Devon McDonald and Taylor Wiley were real treasures and just being funny as hell. I really enjoyed their characters. They were just a very nice presence. The Dracula puppet musical was funny as hell. I really liked the Hawaiian aesthetic, and the fact that it's a tropical paradise makes this film feel more appealing. The directing is fine, and the cinematography conveys the shots and the characters as well as it needed to be. I'm glad this is a story about not taking cheaters back. Infidelity is something that I truly and strongly do not appreciate and like. It is something that I would not wish onto anyone, nobody, even my worst enemy. I don't have one, but if I did, I would truly not wish that upon anyone. Yeah. And that should be the norm. You should not be taking cheaters back. It is something that should not be respected or classed as something great to do. And even if they regret it, you should just not take them back, because they'll most likely do it again. Because that's kind of the norm. You take them back, they're most likely going to do it again. It might not be true all the time, but just don't take them back. They never liked you in the first place, or they just stopped liking you. Go find someone else. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You shouldn't get hung up with someone who just doesn't care about you anymore. I found the story of moving on from someone who just doesn't care about you anymore really satisfying, and Jason Segel looked much happier in the end when he finally broke free and started dating Mila Kunis. The next is a remake of an old film I've never heard of from 1974 called Vampyres. The remake came out in 2015 on Tuesday. I usually watch a film once a day, sometimes twice if I have enough time. And it's usually in the evenings when I just want to settle down before I go to sleep. And this one is probably the most clearly a first-time low-budget director film I've watched this year. It's not the most clearest out of that category because I watched a very bad film last year about a werewolf, and it was something I wouldn't even pass off as a worthy for a first-time film student submission. I'm probably being harsh because it's usually the bar is very low of quality, but even then, I've seen some very good low budget and even some very good first year student films, and it looked much better than that crappy werewolf film I watched. I'm not gonna say it because I do not want to think about it ever again. Anyways, back to Vampires. This film has all the hallmarks of being a low budget standard affair. Simplistic cinematography, below average acting, very noticeable sound, too noticeable at times, crap setting and over-reliance with props in a bad way because props is a good thing, and sometimes a lot of props can really truly convey the scene, and the mood and atmosphere just being too vibrant when it's supposed to feel a lot more gloomy, especially since it's a horror film. The main thing that's not making me hate this, aside from there just being nothing to hate, well, except for some poor choices the characters make, though this is a horror film, so it's a given, is the hot vampire sex and just seeing sexy vampires on screen. I wrote this, yeah. Though you could easily just write that down as vampire porn because of course you would. And honestly, it just felt like those scenes were just there to be softcore porn or just eye-catching, just to draw you in and all that. I mean, it was hot, I will say that, but what was the point of it? Actually, there is a point of it showing that they use blood as a fetish. It is not appealing. I'm not one who's great with blood in any capacity, so seeing that just made me shiver. But I think that was what it's meant to be, is showing that they kill people and they do this sort of thing. That they're not just using it as food, which is kind of gross when you think about it. Where am I? I'm glad that this film makes the vampires truly evil, because that's how vampires were always meant to be portrayed throughout history. I mean, vampires were always a warning or a cautionary tale to stray away from evil or from the righteous path that God presented us to stay on. And I'm glad that it does it. I'm glad that it did it, because a lot of times when you see vampires, you see them as misunderstood or the tragic hero, which is something that Forgetting Sarah Marshall did portray, and it was funny, so I liked it. And whilst I'm not opposed to that, it's art. You can express it however you want. And with monsters and stuff like that, I'm completely fine with portraying it that way if it's the story that you want to tell. In fact, I have stories of my own that has that sort of angle, but in a unique way that still makes them evil in their own way. Yeah, but a lot of the times, monsters were made to be a warning. Vampires are a warning. That's how they were always portrayed. And I'm just glad that this film did it. It showed them that they are truly evil. They suck the blood, they suck the souls out of human bodies. They just leave them to die, and they just make people's lives miserable. And it is something that I also appreciated with Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, even though I'm yet to see it. Still, I desperately want to see it. I still haven't seen it yet. But yeah, it's something I appreciated in Nosferatu, even if it's a remake of the 1922 classic, which I have seen. But yeah, there are a load of moments in here that just leave a loose end. There's a man with a scythe. He was never paid off. The characters, aside from the vampires, but even then, they're just fine. are boring and are not interesting. The sets are not anything to write home about. The ending is just, this happens, and this sets up that this cycle of torment will continue, because of course it does. You can't have a truly happy ending where you kill the vampires. No, you have to leave something else, because, well, that's how evil is. Evil just doesn't always die, unfortunately. Though the best part, I will say that the best part undoubtedly is the score. It's haunting, it's scary, it elevates the otherwise lackluster events that's happening on screen, and it just sticks out against this mediocrity. And whilst I have a problem with the sound, I do not have a problem with the score at all. Yeah, it's not anything to write home about. At best, it's an average film with hot vampire sex and a great score. At worst, it's an underdeveloped, poorly made, first-time low-budget director film with uninteresting characters and so many questions left unanswered. Though I will say, I'm not sure if this is the director's first time directing. I'll show a screen of saying if it is or isn't, but this film is just how I felt it would be. The third film is Warm Bodies, a very alright cheesy rom-com, but with zombies. The premise is creative and the story is paced well. It could be generic at times, but it stands on its own by subverting the typical zombie escapade by making them feel human, and have that be the cure to them becoming human again. The ending is fun and the resolution is sweet, but with zombies. Nicholas Hoult is good as R. I liked his relationships with Julie and with Em. The two lovers have the meet cute sort of energy, which turns into full-blown attraction. It's very sweet, and him and Em are just the best of bros. But with zombies, I'm actually going to continue to do this. John Malkovich is in this, so 9 out of 10. Not saying that. I like the designs of the bonies, very creepy and just stands out with the conventional shambling zombies. It's not great, but it's not bad. Has enough good elements for not being tossed into the gutter. Overall, from any typical zombie affair, this stands out by twisting the formula, by telling a very human story and making the monster feel like a man again, but with zombies. The last film is an animated film which I guarantee you no one's heard of, Rebellious. And for being a very not good film, I had way too much fun with this. The main characters are interesting and likable. I love that this film doesn't indulge in the modern strong female character archetype bullshit that is just it's just actually a massive narcissist who would clearly fit better as the villain. But instead let her be a character and feminine, as well as being capable to defend herself, while still being saved by her lover. I think that's the sort of thing I appeal to most. I believe the best feminist film still is Disney's animated Mulan. She's strong, she's capable, but she's also feminine, and she builds up the training to make herself from having no idea how to use a sword to learning how to use a sword alongside her new friends. That's something I really appreciate, which I'll probably make a video about sometime in the future. Yeah. What else is there to say? The talking bear was fun. I liked his presence. He was a very enjoyable character. The fat Asian is the best character because he stood up to his toxic mother whilst being the best friend any good-looking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man could have. The main villain is rubbish. His first on-screen appearance. During his first on-screen appearance, he's beaten around by the main love interest, and he's just actively a goofball and an idiot throughout the entire thing. And his voice is stupid as well. I mean, how am I supposed to be intimidated by the main villain if you get beaten up by one of the main characters? It is not appealing. Word of advice: don't downplay the intensity of the villain. If you want to truly build up the villain as a menacing threat, make him win throughout, and then only have him lose during the end. That's usually the best advice you can ever have. And it's the reason why Thanos works so well. It's the reason why Joker works so well. It's the reason why Scar works so well. They won. And yet they're defeated in the end. That is satisfying. And not only that, they have interesting characterizations and interesting presence throughout, and have interesting motives. This guy, he just wants a new babe. That's it. He just wants a harem. I'm not joking. He's a not very interesting character at all. Yeah. What else? The wizard in this is a simp who's never been told no in his life. Also, the dragon is ugly. The actual dragon model. I mean, this dragon gets turned into a witch who is an old woman, but the dragon model they use in this is ugly. I mean, the rest of the character designs are just plastic at times, but they had distinct characterization and were interesting, but the dragon model was just... no. It looks stupid. It's just stupid. The rival character against the main character, Ronan, was more threatening than the main villain. Heck, a random ass giant snake was more threatening than the main villain. That's how stupid the main villain is. The Arabic black guy literally found a Playboy mansion and dipped out the film to the final dance-off scene, which every animated film needs to have. Yeah, there was 3 rival characters. The Asian became the main character's best friend. The black guy found a Playboy mansion and fell in love with Chunky Ariel. I'm not kidding. And the last guy, the last guy is actually threatening, and he does pose a challenge and a threat to the main character, but even then, he's just a 6 out of 10 as a villain. So yeah, that's more than I have to say. I will say this. Much like almost every other romance I've seen, I really bought the connection between the 2 lovers. It definitely seems they have so much chemistry. Though it would have been perfect if they actually kissed in the film. I mean, seriously, you go through an entire film and not have the 2 leads kiss. I mean, what the heck? It's a love story. The main character's supposed to sweep the lover off her feet and then they get married and they kiss. They do not even kiss once. That's more of a personal grievance towards me. But yeah, overall, despite it being very average, a lot of the elements are not fleshed out at all. It was a great time watching. I can't fault this for that. Anyways, those were all the 4 films that I watched last week. I'd give Forgetting Sarah Marshall a 7 out of 10, Vampyres a 5, and Warm Bodies and Rebellious a 7 out of 10 as well. 3 of them were alright, standard affairs with nothing interesting, but I had a good time. Vampyres was a very not great film, but I had a good time watching it. But mostly I was just confused and just questioning a lot of the elements throughout the film. Anyways, hopefully this week will be much more interesting, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. Anyways, that's the end for this video. If you made it this far, I'm very thankful for you watching this. My only goal for this is to give my opinions out there for people who's just willing to listen and willing to have a new take. I'm fine being the 2nd or 3rd or 4th take that you listen to, but I'm always here to give a different perspective than you would typically have. Anyways, that's the end of today's video. If you have any films that you'd like me to watch or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. That's it. I want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you later. Have a good one.